Hey, my name is Eric, and in today's video I wanted to do a review of InkFile versus Legalzoom. So as you can see here, we have some services listed on Legalzoom: business formation, wills and trust, intellectual property, or speak with an attorney. A little bit simpler on InkFile. Now, if you're looking at their bread and butter is really setting up entities. So if you're trying to set up an LLC or you're trying to set up a C-Corp, S-Corp, a nonprofit, all things you can do through both services. But what you'll find is InkFile is more focused on setting up a business entity and then helping you maintain that entity, where Legalzoom is a little bit more diverse in the products and services they offer. You're not going to make a will and trust or work on trademarks or patents or copyrights with InkFile. Now, the biggest thing you'll notice right off the bat is, why don't we take a look at if you were to set up a corporation and what the pricing would cost you in LegalZoom. So what you can do on here is, if you pick your state, like I'm in New York, if memory serves me right, it's like, yeah, $135, you'll show that. I think the most expensive one is Nevada, if I recall correctly, yeah, $725, but there's a lot of them that are like 50, 20 bucks too. Typically you're around like 50 to 200 bucks or so for your state filing fees. But if you go over here to InkFile, you'll find that the fees are actually lower. So if you're in the entity type, I'm going to put in an S corporation, and I will put New York. So we're just doing kind of a side by side. You can see that the state fee is $130, and the package fee for their core features is $0, and then they kind of go up from there if you want them to do a little bit more work for you. So if you're really looking at these next to each other, the pricing is definitely more expensive on LegalZoom, $149 to $349, where this starts at $130 and goes up to $429. So if you're really digging into the price, if you just kind of look at it, they look kind of similar, right? Like $130 to $429, and then we have $149 to $349. But they're not really apples to apples. And why I say that is, if you go down here, you can see that you're getting a business banking account, but also business tax consultation. So you're getting a lot more, in my opinion, with InkFile than you will from LegalZoom. Now, if you have needs to get, trademarks or copyrights, and you're going to be doing a lot of that type of work, maybe LegalZoom makes more sense for you because you can stick with that program. But if you're kind of just looking to get set up with your S-Corp, your LLC, whatever, I believe that you're going to actually save a little bit of money by going with InkFile. So if you're wondering what kind of business formation you should actually set up, what kind of entity, you can go to the Learning Center, and they have a business type quiz, which is super helpful. And one of the things that I also found really helpful, maybe you will right now, is the S-Corp Tax Calculator. But before I get to that business type quiz, you can take the quiz, but really you're going to see the 4 types of businesses that you can really set up. If you don't have a huge company structure for large businesses, you probably don't need a C corporation, so you're probably between an LLC and an S-Corp. So for my business, I do marketing consultations, and I also have YouTube channels that I make income from. I ended up getting set up with an S-Corp, and the reason for that is to keep more of your tax money. So really cool tool they have here. If you're again going in their Learning Center, they have what's called an S-Corp Tax Calculator. So this tool is pretty neat. So just to kind of get a quick idea, let's say you think that you might net $50,000 at your business this year, and now let's say you take a salary of $25,000. Let's get that accurate there. So what you can see is, as a sole proprietor, you would pay $7,650 in taxes, but as an S corporation, you would pay $3,825. So you'd save $3,825 every year in your taxes by setting up an S corporation, as opposed to just being a sole proprietor with like a DBA. So the reason for this, as we scroll up, is right here. So there's an employment, payroll, and self-employment tax. So the self-employment tax is known as the FICA and Medicare or Social Security tax, and is levied on your entire income. So when you are a W-2 employee at a typical business, the employer actually pays half of that tax for you, and then the employee pays the other half. Now, if you are a sole proprietor, not an S-Corp, you are paying 100% of that tax, all 15.3%. But if you get set up with an S corporation, what happens is you actually split that tax, and the way you do that is you become an employee of the business. The income that you are paid as an employee, so right here you can say, what is your salary? It's $25,000. That will have that 15.3% tax taken out, so like all of it. but there's a distribution or a draw that you can take on the company when you're an S-Corp, and that portion is a reduced tax amount. So that's how you're saving that $3,825. It's what you take out at the end of the year as a distribution or a draw. Now, the cool thing about InkFile is they can actually hook you up with their accounting software. They can file your taxes for you and do all that for you. And this is just kind of a fun tool to play with. So you might kind of think, okay, maybe I'm going to clear $100,000. You do have to take a higher salary, but let's say you decide to take a $45,000 salary. In that particular case, again, you'd save nearly $8,000 in taxes by having an S-Corp. So you may have noticed with InkFile that you can actually get started for $0 just plus the state fee. So you might be wondering like, well, how does that work? Well, what they're really doing is they're doing what's called a loss leader, where they're not really making money on getting people set up with their entity. What they're making money on is then helping you manage your company. So if we go to this drop down, you can see that there is compliance, IRS filings, or a registered agent. These are all things that they can continue to help you with year after year. So they're really making money on having a long-term client and not trying to gouge you on pricing up front. Now, another option is you can go through an attorney, but typically that's going to charge you anywhere from like $600 on the real low end to well over $1,000 if you get a high-priced attorney to set up your business structure for you, and that may not include your state fees. So it's pretty cool to be able to go online, do this yourself, and I would definitely recommend going to the Learning Center, try out the business type quiz with the S-Corp Tax Calculator if you're interested in saving taxes. And it's a really neat service that's available here. And you can see that entrepreneurs recognize them as one of the 360 best entrepreneurial companies in America. Now, if you are interested, I do have a link in the description below for both services. And I will secure any kind of promotion that I can get for you with that link. And if you do have any questions, you can feel free to comment below. I'd love to answer your questions for you. And hopefully you learned something. I know with the S-Corp, that's something that I have learned over the past year and looking forward to saving a lot on taxes going forward because I have the right entity set up for my business. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next video.